You ever have one of those painting days where everything just clicks? Like you're having fun, the painting is loose, you're painting exactly the way that you want to. That's the kind of painting day that I had yesterday, and I want to take you along on that journey with me. So yesterday I was painting over at East Oak Studio. They have a monthly Painting from Life session, and it's one of the things during the month that I most look forward to. It's everything I love. We have a model, and I get to paint a portrait from life, and I do it while chatting with some of my best art friends, and we live stream it. So not only am I talking with other incredible artists during this 3-hour session, but I'm also answering questions from people just like you in the chat. As a side note, if you don't subscribe to East Oaks Studios YouTube channel, I would highly recommend that you check it out so that you can actually join and watch next time we have a painting live stream like this. Hey, this is Chelsea from the future. I wanted to record one other quick little note to share with you. If you found this video really helpful and you would honestly really like to get to this style or any style of like really loose painterly portraiture in 2025, and you just want to make sure that you set yourself up for success in the coming year, I have a free masterclass that I'm going to be hosting live this coming Monday. That's going to be October 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll have a link down in the description, and I'll make sure to pin a comment as well with the registration link. So if you are interested in learning all about how to set yourself up in terms of meeting your painting goals in the coming year, I would definitely recommend that you register for this free masterclass. It'll also be recorded just in case you can't join me live. So if you're not able to make it, there will be a replay link that you'll get after. But if you can make it live, I would highly encourage you to join, just because there's going to be a live Q&A with me at the end. So if you're able to make it live, you can actually ask me any questions about what it takes to reach your big painting goals, and you're welcome to share what your goals are with me, and we can actually kind of workshop it during that masterclass. All right, I look forward to seeing you there. So here's what stood out to me about yesterday. It was one of those really interesting painting sessions where I just felt like everything was in flow. And this is such a special feeling that I feel like it's worth celebrating when it happens. But I also think it's really important to be able to share it with all of you, and both for my own benefit and for your benefit, unpack why I think it happened. My hope is that in sharing this with you, that it feels like I'm taking you along on my journey. So it's not just that I'm saying that I have all the answers all the time. It's so that you can actually learn along with me. That way, one, by breaking down what I think set myself up for success, I learn, I get better, I become more likely to enter that flow state more often because I'm pinpointing exactly what I think enabled it in the first place. But also, it gives you those same takeaways so that you can actually accomplish this for yourself. After all, that's really my big goal in having my YouTube channel, in mentoring students through my program, the Alla Prima Bootcamp, and also sending you these emails. So one thing I want to note is that I don't think this is a one-size-fits-all formula. I think that a lot of this has to do with my personality, where my skill set is at today, and frankly, just what I'm in the mood for, what I'm going to enjoy in the way that I prefer to paint. So for instance, when I go to East Oaks, I am typically the only Alla Prima oil painter there. My friends yesterday who were painting with me, Tina Figurelli and Erica Arcudi, they are both more indirect painters. They will work very deliberately in layers when they paint. It also means that they are typically slower, more methodical painters, whereas I am very much an immediate painter who's very focused on brushwork and kind of like the kinetic feeling of how the paint actually goes onto the canvas. I've also found that I just really thrive in the environment of painting live, having a model from life, and knowing that we only have the model for a certain amount of time. And then on top of that, having it live streamed, I think actually helps me to turn on a little bit. There's a part of me that is inherently a performer or maybe a little bit of a competitive person. And so when I know that people are watching, it's like suddenly there are stakes and I'm really excited for this to get captured. It's funny because it's actually a very different feeling from creating YouTube videos, because with the YouTube videos, I'm often not talking through moment by moment what I'm doing. Some videos I can do that, but a lot of them, the individual choices I'm making feel a little bit lower stakes because I know that the video is going to get sped up. And even if I do make mistakes, or if I have like a brilliant moment where everything clicked, it may just not be quite as apparent. Whereas on a live stream, everything feels so in the moment, and I trust that enough people are watching right then as I'm making those marks, that I really just enjoy kind of creating this, almost like opening this window through which you all can get a direct look at exactly what I'm painting and how I'm thinking and how I feel that the painting is unfolding and progressing. I find that my mind is simply very sharp, and that is often a feeling that can be lacking when I'm working alone in my studio from a photograph on my own time. And so again, I say this not to suggest that everyone would benefit from following this exact formula. I do think I'm pretty unique in that I can respond well to certain kinds of pressures. And I've also just been painting portraits for long enough that I trust that I'm going to be able to rise to certain challenges. And I've done a lot of mindset work to the point where I can really just enjoy sharing the process with everybody, even if the painting ultimately isn't successful. I think, to put it another way, simply put, I've had enough successful paintings that I'm not going to feel like a failure if I make a painting that happens to fail. Instead, I honestly think that that's a really exciting opportunity to share and analyze why I think that's happening, so that you all can get a genuine glimpse into the mindset of a painter who is doing this at a high level. And the truth is that I shared this actually last night during the live stream. One thing that I really notice in very successful or masterful oil painters, especially portrait painters, but this certainly isn't exclusive to portraits by any means, is they will have this mindset of curiosity rather than judgment when something doesn't go well. And so, for instance, if they put down a mark and it is just absolutely the wrong value, or it completely muddies up the color they have, they're just very quick to say like, oh, wow, that was not the right choice. And they simply grab the tool that enables them to make the correction rather than starting to get really stressed or panicked or starting to get really mean to themselves about what's happening, or questioning whether maybe they're just not cut out for this, or maybe this means that they're just not that good at painting. No, the painters who are really masterful are the ones who I think are much more likely to just kind of be fascinated both by the things that go really well and the things that don't go well in a particular portrait sitting. And while I was talking about this on the live stream, I remarked that while this is something that I notice in really successful painters, what's great about this mindset is that you can adopt this right now. You don't have to wait until you have arrived at mastery to start thinking this way. You can actually really approach your craft this way right from the very beginning. And so I really want to encourage you to adopt that same mindset. And I think this is really the secret too. One, of what gets you to mastery. But two, I think it also helps you to get into that flow state. So again, I don't think that the secret to my entering flow last night was the fact that I was doing it on a live stream, or the fact that I had a model and I was working from life. Those things might set me up for success, but I think that if I were to distill this down into a formula that other painters can use, yourself included, I would be much more likely to suggest that you think about what you can do to get into that mindset of curiosity and play, rather than a mindset of pressure, expectation, and judgment. So that is really what I wanted to focus on as far as the mindset goes for this particular painting. Now I'm going to talk about some of the painting itself and what happened there that I thought was really special. So right now, I just have an image of this painting up, and a few things stick out to me when I think back to the creation of this painting and why I feel so proud of this, and also just why it was so enjoyable. So for one, I've been going to these painting from life sessions for a while, and I have found that I have actually gotten progressively better and better the more that I have gone. I think that's a testament to the fact that I've gotten increasingly clear on how I want to work in all of this time. And so I have focused all of my efforts and all of my growth into a clear direction that gets me cumulative results. But the other piece of this is, I simply am very used to this environment. So working from life, I've gotten more and more comfortable with it. I have gotten more and more dialed in as far as what my priorities are and how I want to paint. And that's let me see disproportionately large growth in the right direction. And specifically, whether it's been through practice or just been through really having clarity on my intentions, I know what I want to be putting into these kinds of paintings. So for instance, I really enjoy on this painting that her eyebrows are actually made up of about 2 brush strokes each. They are broken. Similarly, there's this area in her lip that is broken. Lately, I've really been thinking quite a lot about creating a hierarchy of values and making sure that my brightest highlights are in a very specific place, and that I'm not diluting this by kind of spreading those values all over the face. So for instance, in her, the brightest highlight is in her eye, but it is also the smallest highlight, so it doesn't have quite the impact. I would say the highlight that probably has the most impact, at least on the skin, would be her nose, and then secondary to that would be the cheeks. Now, the lighting on her was fairly tricky. There weren't really big shadow shapes, which makes this a difficult portrait to paint. And again, this is one of those places where I think learning is just so much fun. I don't think I've figured it out by any means, but just to give you a little bit of an insight into my thought process here, I would think about the highlight that is on, from our perspective, her right cheek. I think that highlight probably takes a little bit of priority over the left cheek, just because it is going right up against the shadow on her nose. So technically, the right side of her face from our perspective is going to be a little bit darker in value, even though it's not necessarily in shadow. But again, the highlights are so similar that I think the fact that the highlight on the right-hand side of the face is so close to the shadow of her nose that it probably just makes it pop a little bit more. But there's an argument to be made that this might mean that the left hand highlight should actually be just a little bit lighter, and I should have a little bit more of that clear hierarchy of like what areas of form on the face should be receiving the most light and what should be receiving the most shadow. So looking back at this, there are certainly areas where in the moment I know that I could improve. Oh my gosh, how do I even start on something like this? So for one, I think there is room for me to have played a little bit with the temperature or the specific color of the reflected light in her neck. It's a really beautiful color, and I didn't want to overwork this area or draw too much attention to it, but I think there is a little bit more room to play here. Similarly, the design of the overall background, I think I could have designed that a little bit more thoughtfully and perhaps given a more like diagonal thrust to the way the positive shapes come out of the background. Similarly, I could probably have designed like more interesting brushstrokes for her hair that really play with the transparency of my transparent oxide brown, which is like the dominant mixture for her hair in this painting. I also really fell into the trap of getting a little bit too much of my permanent rose, the mixture for like her cheeks and her nose, maybe into just too much of my paint mixture overall. And I think I would have maybe preferred to dial that back just a little bit. Incidentally, I noticed that I had a not insignificant drawing problem in the very beginning because I didn't really establish the vertical plumb line of her face and exactly where that was situated, because she is not 100% square to me. There's a little bit of a rotation to her head. And so I think I could have had a more elegant drawing in the very beginning stages had I accounted for that sooner. But things that I really love and I'm happy with in this painting, I really enjoy just how much of the brushwork I just let be. There's something about these painting from live sessions that really encourage me to stay very loose and not fuss with the image. I often paint with my glasses off, which allows me to see the model with really big shapes and a little bit less clarity, but I can focus very clearly on the painting. But because we have limited time and because I'm focusing on such big shapes in the model, I really don't get sucked into the trap of smoothing and blending and overworking that can easily happen from a photograph in my studio. I simply have a different relationship with the marks that I make when working from life like this. And I think that's part of what makes this so incredibly fun. So my takeaways from this: 1, I always want to prioritize being able to come to these painting from life sessions whenever possible. There is some degree of elements that I can recreate in my own studio, but some things like just painting with friends won't happen when I'm by myself. So given that I know just how consistent I am in this environment, I should really prioritize appearing at this event and painting there whenever possible. As far as my own studio, though, I think it really speaks to just getting a model in and painting from life and keeping the session short. Not telling myself that I can bring the model back ad infinitum, but instead that I'm only going to have the model for 3 hours or potentially a little bit less depending on the model, in that I really have to stay in the moment like this. I think one other possibility is, given that I really like talking through the process, I could potentially have a mirror behind me so the model can see what I'm doing, or I could actually record the entire process and record my commentary as I paint. That way, you all get the benefit of it for YouTube, but I also get the experience of being a little bit more in the moment. So I hope this is of really genuine help as far as being able to find this same sense of flow or looseness in your own work. I really mean it when I say that I want you all to be able to follow along with my journey and get inspiration from it. And if you're interested in really exploring that relationship as much as possible. If you would like more of these insights, and if you would like a plan that's tailored to the exact kind of loose painting that you want to produce, that accounts both for the painting technique and your mindset, I will include a link to book a call with me. It's a free consultation call to talk about your painting goals and talk about what challenges are coming up. And then we can use that to discuss whether you and I would be a fit to work together, so I can really bring you along more in depth to this kind of journey. Thanks so much for sticking this out with me. I hope this video has been really helpful. And until next time, or until we chat on a consultation call, happy painting.